I feel a presence I have not felt since. MacBook, we meet again. It is to your demise. Happy May the 4th, everybody. Happy Star Wars Day. Let me remove this mask and gaze upon the MacBook with my own eyes. Allow me to break the fourth wall now. So, Darth Vader fixes a MacBook. How's everybody? Don't mind me while I mute to take this mic down. Ah, jeez. What a costume. Oh. The fourth wall has been broken. This thing's insane. I'm going to remove some of it. All right, that's better. Mind your ears. Oh, I should put on a fan. This is really smoky in here. Repair my own chest computer. Let's get this thing on the desk. Ugh. Oh, I need to remove this cod piece. The fourth wall is broken. Okay, now I could actually sit. Oh no, my Jedi robes. Hi everybody. That camera's way off. There we go. That focus is way off. Wow, it is getting smoky in here. Happy May the 4th. Darth Vader fixes a MacBook. So today, I have an A1466 MacBook Air, no power. So let's open this up and see what's going on. No screws in the bottom already. Nice and quick. I did not make sure my overhead was set right. MacBook fix, yes. Where's my overhead? Is overhead working? I don't have overhead. Do I have a microscope? I have a microscope. I don't have overhead. I should have overhead. There you go, overhead. Okay, like I said, A1466 MacBook Air. Mr. Daniels. Revenge of the 5th here in Australia. Oh, I missed the 4th in Australia. It's already morning of the 5th. Well, happy Cinco de Mayo to you then. New release of Flex Board View. All right. Where do I download it, Mr. Daniels? Why are you not a mod on my channel? Now you can post links. Okay, so let's start with a quick function check. We'll take our MagSafe 2 connector, plug it in, and what do we get? We get a green light, orange light, no power. So let's check first. What's the first thing that we check for on a MacBook Air? Well, on any MacBook, we go for PP bus right away. So let's check what our PP bus is. You can check that right here on this giant fuse. 0. 0 PP bus. But we have to have PP342 because we have a light. So PP342 should be fine. Yep, 3.42. But we have 0 on, hey, we have 8.5 volts on PP bus on one side of the fuse and the other side is 0. So we have a burnt out PP bus fuse. Well, fuses in MacBooks don't go for no reason. They rather blow up a machine than actually protect anything. So if we have a burnt fuse, then that means we have some kind of problem. So I'm going to take my multimeter, I put it in ohms. I'm going to check the resistance to ground, dead short. It's all the way down to 0.0, dead short on PP bus. Okay, so let's get this board out of here, and we'll take a good look at it. Anybody Star Wars fans? Anybody so not Star Wars fans that you go around today and say, live long and prosper? That's a surefire way today to piss off a Star Wars fan. If you want to piss off a Star Wars fan, say, yeah, oh yeah, it's May 4th, live long and prosper. That will piss off a Star Wars fan. Guaranteed. But I'm a fan of both series, so both franchises. Tweezers. Disconnect the DCM board, we'll disconnect the webcam, disconnect the trackpad cable, which also the keyboard data comes from, keyboard backlight. Oops, I left the battery plugged in, doesn't matter, nothing's powered because PP bus is dead. Speaker, screen, Wi-Fi. Okay, the board is ready to come out. Newest cat, rewind to the very beginning of the stream. Kind of made it for for replay. The beginning of the stream is, I hope it came out really good. I practiced a couple times, hit my head a couple times because the ceiling down here is kind of low and that helmet is very tall. Okay, we got our MacBook board out. Now we're going to take a really good visual inspection of it. Oh, thanks, Mr. Daniels. As long as my license details didn't change, I still have all that. Thanks. So we have a dead short on PP bus, and from experience, I can tell you it's one of these larger capacitors. This is almost always happens when you have a short on PP bus. So these MacBooks are built with the lowest cost parts. They always go with the lowest bidder. They're not going to buy Panasonic capacitors or Nichicon capacitors. They're going to buy the cheapest ones that they can get at the time that are still, you know, holding spec. The company still needs to hold spec for them, but they're going to buy the cheapest ones. So these capacitors, they go out quite often. Oh, hey. Hey there, little guy. Aren't you a cute little blown-up capacitor? Yes, you are. Mr. Daniels, I don't usually replace the ISL. I guess maybe if I saw this problem on like the 9239 ISL or the 9240 ISL, I might be concerned. But these guys are usually pretty tough. Like I'll check it. I'll make sure that PP bus looks proper. I mean, it was proper anyway. It was 8.55 when on the other side of the blown fuse. So I would say that this guy is fine. I don't think he got stressed that much. The fuse blew, actually did its job, protected the ISL. Now this is a pain in the butt, where this one is. You have a meltable connector here, you have one that's kind of meltable here. This one collapses and melts pretty quickly and easily. So this is kind of a pain in the ass to get this one out right here. You can't just use hot air and pull it out. So I'm going to use soldering iron and get this thing off of here. So when I was first starting out, there was a lot of stuff. With you can't work on surface mount unless you have a hot air station. While that's somewhat true, you really need a hot air station to effectively work on surface mount. You can work on surface mount without a hot air station. So we're just going to get alongside of it with a large iron because this is going to be kind of difficult. And we'll get some new solder in here. So the new solder does two things. It helps wet everything with a little bit of flux that came with it, and it's going to mix this lower melting solder because this is leaded solder that I'm using, and on the board is lead free. So the leaded melts at a lower temperature, and if we start mixing them, then the whole thing's going to melt at a lower temperature. And this one I don't care about, so I don't care that I just broke the other leg off. And we'll just unsolder the other leg. And there you go, we got our broken capacitor off the board. Now I'm going to do the same kind of thing putting it back on. So first, when I do something like this on a capacitor that's unknown to me in an unknown area, I want to know which side is going to be harder to solder. So I give them both fresh coatings of solder, nice big bubbles. I let the board cool down a little bit, and then I solder them. Then I just touch my iron to it. Which one's easier to solder? This one's staying, I feel some resistance from this one when I plunge my iron into it. This one just immediately is liquid. So what I'm going to do then, this one's easier to solder, so I'm going to leave this one for second. This one's harder to solder, so I'm going to leave solder on the pad. And that's the one we're going to put the new capacitor down into. And then this one I want to wick off everything. So I want this one to be able to go completely flat. and we'll add new solder after the one side is already soldered on. So now let me get a donor board. So I need to find a donor board that has a fuse. That's kind of difficult sometimes. I hope I have one, actually. Yes, I do. Good. All right, let's make sure this fuse is good. Have my multimeter in ohms, and that is a short fuse, so that means it is good. And let's take the fuse off. I'll put it to the side. I did not turn on my hot air. So I'll take the fuse off, put it to the side. And I'm not going to bother trying to take the new capacitor from the same spot over there. Just from experience and knowing these boards, I know that all of the same looking capacitors that are on this board like that, they all have the same value. So you can't just go by that. You can't go by looks of a capacitor and say that it has the same value. But I know that all of these are PP bus caps and they all have the same value. So I can just take one that's easy to take off. And that'll be the one that goes back. Okay, I do not remember orientation, but I can see that this one's hooked up to the same power plane right here. So the power plane, it splits right here, and this one's hooked up to the same one, so we can just follow its orientation. And for this I want a little bit of flux on it. Just the right amount of flux. And we'll just stick our soldering iron in there and melt the one side down. Push down on the capacitor a little bit, and usually try to lean it a little bit more towards the side that you're soldering. So then it gives you a little bit more space on this side to get solder in. So the one side's on. Stick our soldering iron in there, add a little bit of solder. Make sure that the solder flows onto the pad and that it's not just on the device that you're putting on. It needs to go to the board too. And that flowed in nicely. And there we go. That's it for the burnt capacitor. So now let's come over here. We have this this fuse, and I don't feel like picking up a a screwdriver to get the Wi-Fi card out of the way. So don't use hot air with the Wi-Fi card here. Move the Wi-Fi card, or just don't use hot air. So I'm going to choose the latter. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to do this without hot air. Look at the burnt bottom of that fuse. Oh, it's barely on screen for you. Yes, 1466 it is. Repair MacBook I do. Now same thing as the other one, I'm going to wick one side so it's completely flat. The other side I'm going to leave a little bit of solder, a little bit too little on that right now. Just going to add a little bit of solder to that. That looks good. We'll take our new fuse, place it in here. I need some flux. You want some flux with this too. There we go. Now, just to make it easy on myself, I'm going to flip the board around so that the unsoldered one is on my soldering hand side. And there you go. That's it. This should be fixed. Moment of truth. Let's see if we have fan spin. I'll take my... Oh no, where's my DCN board? I'll take my modified test DCN board. Turn that off. Give you some overhead view. So I have this modified DCN board. You're going to see lights light up on the DCN board. They let me know if PP3v42 is present and if PP3v3 S5, I think, is the other one that I chose. So you'll see a white light and a red light come on. And a fan spin. There we go. Let me get a better view of that. You were supposed to bring balance to the MacBook, not leave it in ruin. So we plug in. That's PP342. That little red light there is... See if I can dim this. The white light lets you know PP342 is there. The red light lets you know that 3v3 S5 is there. And we have fan spin. All right. Quick MacBook repair, and thought I'd give a little happy 4th. This is yeah, it's a pretty good little neat holiday that has cropped up in the last couple of years. I like the whole May the 4th thing. It's fun, especially since I've had this costume since I think I bought this in 2003. Something like that. And I just realized today that I had the original batteries were in all of the devices on it. Luckily, they didn't leak that bad, and some of them still worked. These are Energizer Industrials with the expiration date of 2011. And these things actually still worked. Some of them were dead, and well, one of these was dead, and then the other two actually still worked. Absolutely amazing. So, thanks for joining me. May the 4th be with you. I'm going to go watch A New Hope now. I don't know how many movies I'll get through. I haven't finished Mandalorian. Maybe I'll get into Mandalorian too. I don't know. I'll find something Star Wars to watch. Have a good night, everybody.